from that point back to the station point. You'll become very familiar with this soon. And then from where that intersects the picture plane, we will draw a line down vertically. And then where this line, see the top of the stage or platform runs through, and where that hits, that's going to be point F. And then where the same thing happens with E1, you can bring that line through, and then where that intersects, that would be F1. So we can probably lose this line. So this was the guideline that we had originally, which passed through B and Z and gave us point Q, so we can lose that just to tie this up a little. And also while we're here, we know that this is our rear wall, so we've got D1, C1 and C2. We can locate D2 now, so we can bring our line down. So this is a line that passes through D1. We can bring that down vertically. And where that cuts Q, so this is the height of our stage in perspective, we know that that point is going to be D2. And going back to the principle as before, knowing that if we was to draw a line horizontally from this point, C2, where the rear wall, B, follows through to the vanishing point, we'll draw that line across, and then that is the base of the rear wall. So we can tidy that up if you want. We're using the trim tool, which will take the end off that. But we can tidy this drawing up later. Now we've got the face of our platform, which is this rectangle here, and the extent of our rear wall. I think we can start to look at the mezzanine and how that works and looks in perspective. And very much like we did with the corners of the room, we locate the corners of the mezzanine, so where it cuts in sections, so point G. We bring that back to the vanishing point. We do the same for H, so we bring that back to the vanishing point, and we do the same for I. Let's double check that. Make sure that we hit the points on the right part of the drawing. Located the front of the mezzanine where it crosses at the section plane. We need to know where it hits the back wall. So like we've done before, we pick this up in plan. So this line here, A to J, it should show as dotted, but it is where the mezzanine sits above the plan. So we know that the mezzanine hits the rear wall at this point here. So what we will do, like before, we will take a line from point J through to the station point. Where this crosses the picture plane, we will then bring this down to our section, so ensuring this is vertical. Draw the line, and then we follow I to VP and H to VP. So this is the front of the mezzanine, so the balustrade. And then where this line crosses these 2 points, we've got the mezzanine where it hits the rear wall. So this is point J and point J1. And as before, now we know that we have these 2 points. We know that the height of this in perspective is the same height as we have here. So J is the underside of the mezzanine. So as before, we take the point from J1 where it intersects, bring this across to the outside wall, and from that point there where it intersects the outside wall, we have point K, and then that is the underside of our mezzanine. So we take again, tidy this up slightly. If we take a step back and look to lose that point there, we can tidy this up at the end, it's not necessary now. But if you follow this line across, down and then back across, we know that we have our mezzanine drawn in perspective. On our mezzanine and our back wall, and we've got an idea of where the front of the stage and the platform is, we're going to start looking at the stairs. So in plan, the stairs are to the right hand side, which you can see here. and the stairs run back from the picture plane, and then they cut across at points N, M and L. So first things first, we're going to locate the steps in section and perspective, and we'll start with the bottom step, which is called the first rise. So we'll look at taking a line from Y to the VP and then X to the VP. So then this gives us the face of the first step. And then to understand where it changes direction in plan, we need to have a look at the plan, locate point N, draw a line from point N through to the station point, and then where it crosses the picture plane. Again, bring this line down vertically, and then where it crosses the two lines that are running back to the vanishing point, we know that that is the junction where the step changes direction. So that point is here and here, and we will label that point N, bring this forward, and N1. Because we know this is the corner of the step, and the step returns back, sorry about that, returns back towards the platform and towards point F, we can draw a line horizontally from point N back to the corner of the stage, point line FF, and N1 back to the corner. So we just need to repeat this process for the next two steps. So again, W and V, and then we locate that junction in plan, which is point M. We take that back to the station point, locate that on the picture plane. Be aware that the more you draw and the more detailed the perspective is, these lines do get a little bit confusing. So it makes sense sometimes just to note or label them just so you're clear. It's quite handy on Vectorworks because you can zoom in and see it clearly. But yeah, when drawing this by hand, just be careful with the thickness of your lines, and yeah, just be organised. So yeah, just going to bring this line down vertically, and where this cuts, where W and V run back to the vanishing point, we know that it's this point here. That is the return of the second step, which is M and M1, and then we can bring this forward. And then we know that this is the point of the intersection, so we can draw a line from this point back towards F and do the same with M. So we have M and M1 returning back to the corner of the platform. And then finally we do the same thing for U and Z. Take these lines back to the vanishing point, located plan, which is point L, bring this to the station point, and then where that intersects, we bring that line down into plan, and then that intersection, which is this point here and this point here, is going to be L and L1. And then like before, we connect these points back through to the corner of the stage, but we have a slightly different scenario here, because the top of the step, if we were to bring this line through, we realise the top of the platform is at this point here, because in plan the platform actually steps back slightly. So what we can do, knowing that we can take a line from the intersection, which is the top of the stage here, and draw that line back to the vanishing point, very much the same way we did E to VP, so we located D2, we know that this point here, if we label this line O, for example, this point here, where it intersects with L, sorry, is the top of the platform, and it's the junction where they both meet. So to tidy that up, just to be clear, we know that this point here is the return, and that is the top of the stage. So just to make it clearer, we can lose. It's always handy to keep your perspective lines. I quite like them. I think in terms of an aesthetic, it's always good. So generally you can work on layers of tracing paper to keep these working lines. But just so it's clear what we have drawn, we know that we can lose some of these points here. So then this is our first step that returns round. And then we do the same with the second. So this line here, this is our previous line from the base of our platform. So if we were to lose that at that point and that point there, we know that we can lose this entirely actually. Bear with me. And if we continue just to tidy this up, I'm using a trim tool. You could either use this or use a rubber if you've been drawing this by hand. Or, as I said, use another layer of trace and trace over this, but I'm just deleting these lines so it's clear what we've actually drawn. And then if we look to remove some more of these, this is the LL line, so this is that junction there. So if we are to lose these lines that cut across, because these are the lines, remember, that we've drawn down from the plan above. So they're just to locate these points of the steps. And if we know that we've got all these points, it starts to become clear what we have. Again, if we're to lose this point, I'll probably delete the wrong one here. That no, we're all right. We know that we have, it's a very long-winded way of cleaning this up, but if you can see here, through all of our working lines back to the vanishing point that we've taken from here, and then working from the plan to understand where these corners of the steps are. Once we've tidied it up a little, it's clear that we've got 1 step, 2 step and 3 steps that return around, and then this line here is the top of our platform. So principally we're just repeating the same exercise over and over again, but we're just being methodical and working up, and then just being clear, marking the points. So we've marked M and M1. These points are important because it helps us identify which are the points of importance that we can then draw across and from to create our final perspective. So now we've got the stairs drawn, we can start looking at how this sort of boxing, this could be a column or boxing, works, and then how this returns to the rear wall again. And it's a very similar principle to the stairs. And then once we've got that, we should be getting there with a perspective. Boxing, I think I said a column a minute ago. It's not a column, it's a beam. Columns are vertical, beams horizontal. We need to understand where this is located on plan in order to find out where it intersects the rear wall. So unlike the mezzanine, where we had this line drawn already, which showed the front end of the mezzanine, we just need to draw a couple of guidelines from the beam and take these back up through the plan. We do this for both. So we've got a point from P and R, and we're going to do the same from S and T. So we can locate these on plans. These notes, I put them before, but we've got PR, S and T, where it intersects the rear wall, and this is the wall. So for your information, there is a glazed screen and door on the back wall here, which we will come onto, but for now we're just looking at these beams overhead. So like we did with the steps, we know that we've got the front edge of the beams here, so we just need to draw a point from R, let's start with R, a point from R to the vanishing point R1, which is just below it. We can draw that down, and we can draw what we've got here as P.